People, especially in IITs, they kind of end up taking branches based on their ranks, and they don't necessarily like it, and most branches in fact don't have the most job opportunities.
Hello everyone, welcome to our show America's Amritsar one more time. And this time we have a very interesting person with us today. He's actually a student at IITM and he's in his third year, and we will try to learn a little bit about the journey that he had to go through to get into IIT, how his journey was. And since he's in the third year, I'm sure he remembers a lot more about his journey to get in, as well as how he is finding IIT right now, IIT Madras. Without saying much more, let me just introduce to you Nikhil Anand, who is in IIT Madras and is in the third year. So Nikhil, why don't you take over and tell us a little bit about yourself, as well as why don't you start your journey from the 10th grade onwards and tell us about how your journey was to get into IIT, and whether it is something worthwhile, and is it something that one should try?
Okay, yeah, sure. So hi, I'm Nikhil. I'm very excited to be here. And so about me, first of all, I'm currently studying in my third year in IIT Madras, and I'm doing bioengineering, BTech and MTech in data science. And apart from that, outside of academics, I like to play the guitar and sing and compose my own music. And I also play tennis once in a while. So yeah.
And why don't you tell us something about your journey from the 10th grade, whether it was worthwhile getting into IIT?
Right. Okay. So getting into IIT was definitely worthwhile. I think it has been a really big experience for the last couple of years, and it's been a big turn of events, and I think I've really changed a lot as a person in the last couple of years. So from 10th, so I basically started studying for JEE in 11th, and that kind of that preparation, that mental preparation started in 10th. So I was writing my board exams in 10th, and towards the end of the year I picked up some KVPY books because I really didn't have too much to study for my boards. And
what is KVPY?
KVPY is the Kishore Vaigyanik Protsahan Yojana. It's an exam written by 11th graders for getting into IISc, Indian Institute of Science. So that is usually for people interested in pure science, but a lot of JEE aspirants who want to get into IIT write that exam in 11th in order to, test the waters and things like that. So yeah, that was one exam that I was advised to write, and I decided to start picking up some books and seeing what was to come in the end of 10th grade. And that's where it kind of started, and I joined Alan in the summer of between 10th and 11th, and I started learning, I started attending classes and learning. So once I started attending these classes, it became really, really interesting to stay in class and understand these concepts at a very fundamental level, because 9th and 10th grade science was very pointless, because it's just really simple, it's just oversimplified, and the content itself isn't exciting. It's just theory. It's just kind of, they're giving you information and they're oversimplifying that and not letting you properly think for yourself, and that's not what science is supposed to be about. So honestly, I don't think that I would like, CBSE science in 9th and 10th was not a very good experience. But coming to 11th, the moment I came into 11th and started learning, that was when I really developed this love for whatever I was studying. These teachers had taught all of the concepts at a fundamental level, and everything made a lot of sense.
Which logically. Teachers?
So we had a couple of teachers.
You mean at Allen, right?
Yeah, at Allen.
Okay.
So that was like in chemistry, physics and math. And all of the concepts were very logical now. So once you kind of start seeing logic, when things come, when they start appearing very natural, you can't help but enjoy it a lot. So that's kind of what happened. And over the course of 11th, I think I basically, worked through classes, and I really enjoyed sitting in those classes and learning, and I didn't think too much about the results. I did have pretty good scores in my tests in Allen, but it was more about studying and practicing problems and solving really interesting problems. And coming to 12th grade, obviously things got a bit more tense because the exam was coming up, and that kind of does bring a lot of tension and stress to the environment. And on top of that, a bit later, COVID had come up, so things did get stressful towards the end of 12th. But yeah, I'm happy that I eventually got in. So yeah.
Yeah, so COVID actually affected a lot of people, I know. And going forward, I hope something like that doesn't happen again. So we will not dwell too much into the bad effects of COVID that you had to face, because hopefully no student will have to encounter something like that again in their life. So even before 10th, you developed some love for computer science also, right? So what did you do in computer science that actually has helped you in IIT now?
Right.
Before 10th.
Right. So so starting from 5th grade, I had started coding properly. I learned Python in 5th grade, and I learned a bit of HTML, CSS, and over time, and I did a bit of game dev as well on this thing called Game Maker. It's a drag and drop interface, and you can also code in this in JS, JavaScript. So this was something that I did for fun, and I enjoyed doing it a lot, and I kind of just stayed at it. And over time, I think by 7th I learned Java, and in 10th I started doing Android app dev. So yeah, that was my coding journey back then. That was the main thing that I was interested in during my school days.
Okay, so you learned to code from the 5th grade onwards, right?
Yeah.
And during the 11th and 12th, I am sure you must not have done much of coding. So after 12th, in the first and second year and third year of engineering, how has the coding development actually improved, and what have you been doing in the last 3 years?
Right. So yeah, as you said, in 11th and 12th, I was mostly focused on JEE. But now that I came to college, I was thinking more on the lines of widening my experiences as much as possible. I'd learned a lot in the domains of science, and now I was entering into bioengineering, and I wanted to enter with an open mind. So what I started off with was I just kind of started looking at other opportunities like management, PORs. Basically, those are positions of responsibility to take up during, so I started mentoring a JEE student actually. So my inspiration for that was basically that I felt that I didn't make use of what I learned in JEE for myself, for the exam. That I just felt that maybe whatever knowledge I've gained, I should give it to someone who's underprivileged and who should, who might be able to I might be able to make use of it. So that was my mindset back then, is when you put in a lot of effort for a period of time and you have this, knowledge, I just felt that I needed to make use of it in some way. So that, of course, over time, that is still there. I feel that you should make use of what you've worked hard on for a long time, but maybe it's not necessary to only focus on that. It's always okay to change tracks, is what I currently feel. But still, so at that time, this was one of my main inspirations for joining that team. So it's a team called Avanti, and I was able to mentor a student from Pondicherry who doesn't have any money to pay for his own coaching, and I was able to do that. So that's so we came to college pretty late, and I did this for a couple of months basically. And my coding journey, the thing is, there's a organization in IITM called the Center for Innovation, C5. So over there, that's actually where most of the tech enthusiasts live. They all stay there and work on projects there. Usually if you go outside of C5, you're not going to find too many people into coding or into that, unless they're doing it as a part of coursework. But when you're doing it solely out of passion and solely to work on your own personal projects, I think the best place is C5. So that was something that I joined in my second year. Around that time, I kind of felt, again, I wanted to broaden my experiences as much as possible, take up as many things. I wanted to feel like I've experienced a lot so that I could properly know what I want to do later. So what I did was I decided to join some form of electronics or robotics club to kind of work on projects in that domain. Again, I'd seen my brother, so my brother Akash, he is one of the role models kind of for me. Even during JE, I kind of pushed into that whole thing because of seeing him studying there. Similarly here, he kind of worked a lot in CFI, and it was one of the reasons why I wanted to try and experience and get that exposure. But I didn't really join the clubs he did. I went into this club called the Electronics Club and worked on a couple of projects there, and I think that was one of the places where I really developed an interest in ML and AI, in machine learning, and that's what I kind of fostered later on. So yeah.
So what you're saying is, after you joined IIT, the kind of coding journey that you went through was mostly in ML and AI fields, right?
Yeah. I mean, it was in a diverse set of fields.
Machine learning
once I
and
entered,
artificial intelligence.
Yeah. So once I entered, that was probably what I wanted to focus on, because I wanted to try out projects in that domain. So when I just came, like in the end of my first year, I wanted to create a project where you can use machine learning to interpret brain signals. But the thing is, there was not enough hardware in CFI to be able to do that. It's a very expensive project, so I wasn't able to actually do it. But that kind of showed me, at least now looking back, it shows me that, okay, I was interested in machine learning right from my first year. And I had taken up a course back in 10th also in that field. So it shows me that was kind of where it started. And that interest grew over the next year, and then that's where I started incorporating it into biology and working on research projects in that. So
okay, that's wonderful. Yeah. So machine learning, when you learn machine learning in college, what are you actually learning? I mean, are you doing Python there? Are you using any modules from outside? How are you actually learning machine learning in college?
Right, in college, it depends.
And this was in the first and second year and third year, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it depends. When you're doing general projects, you don't need to go too deep into theory. But what people usually start off with is they'll do an online course and they'll learn what goes on theoretically in Gen. And then they kind of start to use models and start working on projects. Now, most people do it just to improve their portfolio. They'll do different projects, improve their portfolio, improve their resume, start applying to machine learning jobs by their third year, which is fine. So there are a couple of people who do get into research. Now, this is another way that like a lot of people do get into machine learning through courses. So you can study this course called PRML, Pattern Recognition and Machine Learning. That's usually the first course that you take, and it will explain to you a lot about the theory behind each of these algorithms. And so personally, I took that course, and that was where I actually started learning ML, because before that I was just kind of working on a few projects, but it wasn't that exciting for me. But once I sort of started learning, back in December, actually, this December, I decided that I wanted to really get into that field properly, especially with the the experience that I had. What I really wanted to get better at is machine learning at that point in time. So I decided to get a research internship in the NCBS, it's the National Center for Biological Sciences in Bangalore, to do a project related to reinforcement learning in predicting protein structures. So during the course of that, I took up a course on reinforcement learning online. I learned about that, and I tried to incorporate it into my research project. So I think that was again one of the very first things that got me into this. Another thing that got me into this, I feel, is last year. During the year, I started thinking about I had a project in this course called Transport Phenomena, and I decided to do something that was very probability based. All right, and probability is actually a very fundamental thing in machine learning. So I had enjoyed my course on probability in my first year a lot, and when I did this, I realized that okay, why not make a career out of this? Because it's just a very small set of axioms, a small set of theories to know, mathematical theories to know. It's not like you have to know everything, but just with this much, there's so many possibilities in terms of machine learning. There's too many, right now with ChatGPT, with different models that are coming up. There's way too many possibilities for something which, at a theoretical level, it's not too difficult. So that was the thing that I really felt, okay, this is something that I might have a future with, and it's something I really enjoy, and I don't need to keep studying all the math in the world. Why not just stick to this and push deeper into this, right? So that's kind of what I felt. So that's why I took up that internship in December, and then after that I took up pattern recognition machine learning and learned even more about how each of these algorithms work. My professor was absolutely excellent, and he explained everything at a very...
Professor at?
Yeah. Professor at IIT Madras. His name is Arun Rajkumar. He's teaching pattern recognition and machine learning. So he goes almost like a story, explaining all of the algorithms from the start. How are they developed? I think that is very interesting to me, and I'm probably looking to work in his lab maybe next semester. Maybe he's working on theories for ML, properly developing new algorithms for ML, and that would be very interesting if I ended up doing that. So apart from that, now I'm actually doing an internship in Canada in the MyTax program. So in that research internship, I'll be working again with ML on brain signals, on brain data, which is funny because it kind of ties back to what I had envisioned back in my first year. I wanted to work on a project like this back then, and now I'm finally getting to work on that in an actual research lab abroad. So I think that's really exciting.
Yeah, so one of the things that we are learning today from talking to you is that machine learning is not only it's not limited to any certain field. In biotech, it's being used a lot, and probably the future of biotech lies in the field of machine learning and artificial intelligence, right? So there are actually 3 branches of biotech, right? Can you just explain to us what those 3 branches are, and what are the different options that students can have after finishing a course in biotechnology engineering?
Okay, yeah. So I mean, there are 3 specializations actually. In IIT Madras specifically, the 3 specializations are biomedical, computational bio, and bioprocess engineering. So the difference, like I've taken courses in all 3. I think there are compulsory courses you have to take in all 3. Now I'm probably going to be taking up more courses in computational bio. So eventually I'll end up with that specialization. If you take up more courses in the other, specializations, categories, then you would end up with that. So about the difference between the 3, bioprocess is chemical engineering for biological systems. So there's a lot of really cool processes that we learn about, like we learned about bioreactors, how they work. It's actually very general. So what we did till now is probably something any chemical engineer would do, but maybe as you take more courses, it will be more specific. So we did take, that has more to do with the process of producing, biological compounds. For example, proteins need to be produced. Let's say you're manufacturing insulin in a large-scale manufacturing plant. You need to do it in an efficient way. You need to put in the raw materials, see how it's mixing in the solution, see how it's producing the product, and you have to extract the product. And there'll be a lot of rate laws and things you have to study in order to understand the rate at which the product is being formed. So that's what bioprocess engineering is about. The second one, biomedical engineering. So in that, I guess what that is about working with devices that are important for biological, situations. Like for example, they might work with prosthetics, and you might be able to you have to properly study the biomechanics of the arm and how it works, for example. That's one course you might take in that. And you have to, by understanding the biomechanics, you can develop robotic arms that humans can use. In fact, even what I'm doing in my research internship could be a intersection with biomedical, because it relies on collecting signals and data from the brain that would require some sort of EEG apparatus with some electrodes to be placed on the brain and to collect signal data from it and transmit it to a computer for analysis. So that is also in the realm of biomedical. And another example perhaps is, those pulse oximeters that have been designed by people to, determine the amount of oxygen level in your blood. So of course someone needed to do some R&D for that, and that's what perhaps someone in this field would do. I've not taken too many courses in this domain, so I'm not sure about all the possibilities, but these are some possibilities. And then the third is computational bio. So in that field, there's a lot of things. You can work, again, just like I told you about protein structure. You can work with protein structure data, how exactly the data is to be read, and there are a lot of softwares to, you can just pass in an amino acid sequence, which is the sequence of, residues, or that determines the chemical structure of the protein, basically. That can be written in the form of a sequence, A, B, B, something like that. You can write one sequence, and that's called a FASTA sequence. And you can plug that into, an AI model like AlphaFold, and it will determine and predict the tertiary structure or the three-dimensional arrangement of that. So that's one example of computational bio.
So basically what you're saying is computational bio is more on utilizing AI and ML in the field of biology.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
it could be AI ML, it could be in general just analysis of data. But yeah, I think AI and ML are kind of very
futuristically
crucial.
It is AI and ML.
Yeah, true.
Okay, so AI and ML is going to be used in biotech a lot. One of the things that I'm actually worried about, and I'm sure a lot of our audience will also be worried about this, that AI and ML is going to take away a lot of jobs from the industry. Do you think that is going to happen? What is your view on that?
Okay, so I think that any creative job, anything that really requires you to be creative and to create something of your own, is not going to be replaced by AI and ML, but something that might be manual.
What about paintings and all that? I mean,
so as of now, AI hasn't reached that level of human expression, right? And even if it does some point in the future, we know nothing about the brain right now. Honestly, we have no idea what this whole concept of self is, what all of that is. There's a lot of research in neuroscience, then they're trying to advance research about the brain, but I just want to clarify, the reason I'm bringing this up is that no, I don't think anytime in the near future you're going to have AI that properly it mimics every possible mechanism that the brain has. So what that means is that for a painter, paintings have some human element to them. They have some way of connecting with the painter, with the artist. A lot of people would be able to do that. All AI and ML currently is able to do is it looks at a lot of paintings from different painters, it puts them together, it figures out some weird, combination that would fit what you are asking for, and it'll spit out a painting. So that isn't going to give you that sense of, so at least for artists that, I don't know much about art, so I don't really know what I'm talking about.
No, what you say makes sense, yeah, correct.
But at least for people who, those people who have that fundamental, people have that connection to art, or even music, people have that connection to music, and that connection comes if it's created by something human. But definitely, artificial intelligence is going to make the process a lot easier. It's going to probably, it's going to make a lot of manual jobs probably, not be required anymore, which I think is good. At least when it comes to a day-to-day basis, you want to replace the manual jobs as much as possible so that you can focus on the creative work. You can focus on creating something new, right? So that's good. Of course, there's an issue that there are people who have manual jobs which means that employment might reduce or something like that. There might be unemployment, but yeah, but you know.
All right, so that's fair. Yeah, that's right. So, you talked a little bit about biotechnology and biological engineering and all that, right? But after 3 years of biological engineering, you have decided to change your course a little bit, and you have taken you are doing an MTech in data science. Why MTech in data science?
Right. No, so I wanted to do MTech in data science from the start. I was very interested in getting into some computational or coding related field, and data science, and now more than ever, I think I'm the most interested in this field out of my classmates who have taken it.
All right. So, what do they teach you in the data science course? What does it? What kind of topics are there, and how is it help? How do you think it will help you in the industry?
Okay. So yeah. So I mean, I just started my MTech in data science this semester. So what I took this semester in that, I took a course on mathematical foundations of data science and pattern recognition machine learning. So the compulsory course is mathematical foundations of data science. And what they teach in that is just linear algebra, probability, statistics, and optimization, which I already took individual courses for before this. So I didn't really learn anything new this time. But pattern recognition and machine learning was very, very interesting and taught me a lot about the fundamental theories and everything. That is not a compulsory course as of now, so that's just elective. But you have to take a certain number of electives, so I think that would be counted for that. Now in the future, I think there are some compulsory courses related to data analytics and stuff. I'm not sure how useful it would be. I haven't really looked into what is to come in that sense. But I'm looking to take more further courses in theoretical ML to, as electives to fill up these elective credits, and because of my interest in deep learning, reinforcement learning, natural language processing. They have individual courses for these.
So do you actually code when you're taking these courses, or is it all mathematics? And
Right. So it's majorly mathematics, but the assignments require you to code. When you really want to when you want to implement machine learning fundamentally, you need to understand the mathematics. Otherwise, you won't understand what's happening in the code. It's much easier to see math equations than to see some code equations, right? Like if you just see the code, as in from scratch, not using any functions, it's very hard to read it. But when you write it in the form that it's taught, it's much easier. So that's what you have to start with, and then you can start implementing and creating algorithms of your own. But in most cases, if people just want to get into an ML job or something like that, then you don't have to really learn at a fundamental how the algorithms are working. You can just make use of it. So this is the other aspect, is you should still do it because they're going to test on that if you want to get into an ML job, is you need to know which algorithms to use in which cases. You need to work on projects where you can use different algorithms to make predictions for a certain kind of type of data. And if you can do that effectively, then you can create applications for that basically. So this is still really important. It doesn't require you to go deep into the algorithms though. Yeah.
So I got a very good understanding about how biotech and data science they work together, and how they complement each other, and how one helps the other. But can you, if you know, do you know about the other fields, like people take mechanical engineering, civil engineering? They also, I understand, they can also take this dual degree of data science at IITM. So how do those two fields actually complement each other? For example, civil engineering and data science, or mechanical and data science. Computer science and data science, of course, everybody knows that it will gel with each other. Electrical also to a certain extent. So what we are left with is metallurgy, civil engineering, and mechanical. If you have some ideas about how data science can help in these fields, that will be, I think, a very good information for the audience.
Okay, so I mean, data science can help in pretty much any field. It's basically the science of studying and analyzing and getting insights from data. This data could be of any form. It could be in chemical engineering, for example, you could have some process where you're passing in some reactants into the mixture and trying to get some output. So for that, you could use data science in order to analyze how the reactants might be, reacting, what would be the output for the given input. And there's a lot of other things that I've had seniors who have worked on different projects in the fields of data science and chemical engineering. So there are professors in that field. In this case of mechanical and civil, I don't know much about what mechanical guys do with data science. I know a couple of people who are in mechanical are taking data science because they want to get into an ML job later, or they want to get into that field. There are definitely going to be ways to intersect the two, but I'm not sure what exactly would it be. Yeah.
Okay. So what I gather is what they are teaching you in data science is mostly about creating innovative ways of writing algorithms and all that, right? At IIT.
Yeah. I mean, that's what they're teaching me currently. But over time, I think they're going to teach about different methods of data analytics using some softwares to sort of collect data, big data, for example. So these are all more industry type tools in order to use, while on the other hand, developing these algorithms is more of a theoretical thing. So both of these are present in IIT.
So once you start working in the industry, what we see is a lot of people actually they are only using functionality that others have written. About like data science, there will be some triggers or something, and then they just have to call those triggers, and they have to get their job done. They are not actually contributing to the algorithmic way of writing.
Right.
So are you going to look for a job in those kind of areas where you have to develop the algorithm, or does this course also help you in understanding what kind of functionality is there out there in the world that you can take up to do something?
Yeah.
For example, let's give a very basic example. Like you buy some products from Amazon, and then Amazon will give you a list of items that you can probably buy because you have bought that product. So that list comes below Amazon. I'm sure the Amazon engineers have not developed an algorithm to actually come up with that thing, or maybe they have, I don't know. But nowadays, if you want to develop something like that for your own website, I am sure you can do that too. You want to sell something, and then you want to suggest some items that people want to buy. You can just call some functions from outside, or as they call it in computer science, APIs, application programming interface, and then you can actually give them this. So that somehow I feel that even people who have not gone through this grind of data science can also do. So sometimes that makes me feel a little apprehensive about why go through all these things. But of course, we never know what the future is going to be, and what kind of job that one is going to do. That I understand.
Yeah.
So all right. So we talked a lot about academics and all that, and I'm sure some of this must help some of the students that actually are looking at our interview. Can you tell me something about how do you enjoy life in IIT, generally speaking? Is it? I asked this question from my previous interview also. Do you think? The journey to get into IIT was very difficult. I mean, you had to study a lot.
Yeah.
Do you find that studying at IIT is also very difficult? On a scale of 1 to 10, if you say that getting into IIT you had to study on a level of 9, what do you think? The life at IIT is in terms of academic pressure?
Okay. Yeah, it's actually depends a lot from branch to branch. So if you look at the computer science and electrical students, they have to put in a lot of effort, and they kind of don't have time for anything other than their courses. When you come to other branches, they have, we have a lot of time, at least for me. So I'm in bioengineering, and I take whatever courses I'm taking, but I still have some time to take up other things, to do other things. So on a scale of 1 to 10, to answer your question, I mean, probably a 5 in terms of how much effort I have to put in. But I don't really think too much in terms of effort. If a course is tough for everyone, it's usually because it's interesting to me. I mean, usually the tougher courses are the ones that are interesting, and I usually sit in those classes in the front seat and listen properly and all that. So I don't really find it to be a burden, to be honest. And there are the weird thing about me, I think this is not true for most people, but I find the burden to be the courses that are really boring and that I already know everything in, because I just can't sit in the classes and listen to something I know everything about, and studying for the exam just feels like a waste of time at the end. So that's one of the things I feel more mentally stressed out about, because I still want to get good grades and I don't feel like studying in that course. So that's more of the burden for me. But other than that, I've not really felt that okay, a course has been so difficult that I've taken so much pressure. It does vary from branch to branch. The main thing is, if you take up a lot of courses in a given sem and it becomes very hectic for you, that's when you can really start to take a lot of stress. So for example, electrical students in their fourth semester have a lot of courses, and most of them tend to take up a lot of stress in that time, because there's a lot of courses and all of them are difficult. What I do because I have a lot more freedom, so I can balance it out with one easy course, one tough course, and I'll be able to do well in as many as possible if I do that.
And any extracurricular activities that you do other than academics?
Yeah, so I am in the music contingent, which is this group of people who perform music to the college and in other events outside the college. There are fests going on outside. There are all these things. So actually I've been interested in music for a long time. Since I was very young, I've been singing and I played the piano and the guitar. So when I joined college, of course, it wasn't like my first priority. But when when it was announced that some selections were going to happen, I applied for the music contingent, and I was very elated to get into the contingent. So it's a really, really tight group of people, and it's a very warm and nice environment to like work with them, to perform with them, and to just hang out with them. And this kind of is the case with a lot of groups in college. Sometimes you would take up a thing called a POR. It's a position of responsibility. You start to work with a team of people on certain things in the institute, and when you start to work with them, spend time with them, and you start to bond. And I think these are the things that kind of really made me feel good this year, probably, that all these outings and events that I attended with my friends. That's the point.
So actually we are running a little short of time, but my last question to you would be, I'm always very excited about entrepreneurship. So my last question is, do you think people who are in the field of biotechnology and data science combination, you think they also can get into entrepreneurship? They can start something that can that can benefit other people.
Right.
Do you see things like that happening in college, or do you think most of the people are going into research and after biotechnology and data science combination? I'm talking about.
Okay.
You see people going into research more, or are they also getting into entrepreneurship? Of course, anybody can get a job. So I'm not going to talk about that part of it.
See, so for me the situation is different, but if you talk in general, most people in biotech, honestly, I don't know anyone who's gotten into entrepreneurship. They're mostly into research. Whoever is doing really well in their acads is getting into research. Whoever is doing not so well, because they're not at all interested, they will not get into research. They'll take up some job, for example, some software job or something of that sort, or consult. So that's what I've seen. There are still people that I know who are interested in getting into at least starting a company and seeing where it goes. I think the main thing about starting a company in college is about time and how much time you have. It's about where you prioritize your time. Like if you feel that you have, like once you start off in college, you're going to start looking at all of these different positions of responsibility, which is a good thing because you'll start to get mentorship from seniors, and a lot of the mentorship I got from my seniors came from these things. So that's what you start focusing on. But over time, you become the senior, and let's say you gave back to your juniors in some way. Now you kind of want to focus on yourself. and there aren't too many of those kinds of opportunities. So that's where you start to have a lot more time, and you might get into things like entrepreneurship, starting your own thing, because you feel you're capable of doing something of your own. So I know a lot of people who have done that. They've just started something of their own. They're very interested in software dev, or they're very interested in maybe aerial robotics, doing UAVs. They're creating some sort of drones that are autonomous. This is again, I think, very majorly coming out of CFI, the Center for Innovation. Those are the people that have worked on these projects just out of the passion for it, and that's what kind of pushes you to do something for the passion of it, which is what entrepreneurship's about. Yeah. So if you talk about my situation, I don't have any, I'm not even keeping any fixed path in mind at all. So when you say biotech and data science, it does sound a lot like me, but when it comes to me, like I think I mentioned earlier, that whatever work I did in the past, I have to make use of in the future, is the reason why I probably started mentoring a JEE student. But right now, I don't think that should be the case, because I have a long life ahead of me, and I think it's better to just try out new things and try things out. So yeah, I mean, I got into software dev as well. I've gotten into ML, and I'm probably thinking of trying out something in the field of entrepreneurship in the next year, because I'm going to have a lot of time too. So that time factor is really important.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, Nikhil, that was a wonderful conversation we had. What you're saying is right. We should not have any preconceived thoughts about what we are going to do sometimes. Sometimes better to try 2 or 3 different things. But I would just like to mention a few things about mentorship you were just talking about. Even mentoring other people is actually a very good experience. I think teaching is a great thing, and it really makes you happy when you are able to share your ideas and share your knowledge with somebody else. At least that's what's been my experience. So mentoring for a particular period of time is not a waste of time, definitely. And so at this point of time, you are doing data science, and you are trying to explore whether you should be doing research, or whether you should be doing entrepreneurship, or going into data science. All 3 fields, I think, have a great value in today's world. Data science is exploding like anything. Artificial intelligence and machine learning are the in thing of the future, and every single field is going to have that. So I think you are on the right path, and I'm sure the next interview that we will do, we will have a better idea about what you are going to do in the future. Till then, I wish you all the best. Please do well there, and I'm sure you will do well there. And it was very nice talking to you, and had a wonderful experience. Thanks a lot from our team at America's Amritsar.
Thank you. Yeah.